Okay guys, this is the second video going through the review packet for our Unit 4 big quiz. Let's take a look at number 29. Which of the following cannot be the side lengths of a triangle? Well, to figure out if I have a triangle, so I call these is it a triangle problems, the two smaller have to be greater than the largest. So the two smaller have to be greater than the largest. So the two smaller ones here are 1 and 6. Is 1 plus 6 bigger than 7? No, it's the same. So this is the one that can't be, but let's test the rest too. The two smaller are 2 and 6. 2 plus 6 is greater than 7. My two smaller, in this case, they're all the same, so I just picked 2 of them. That's good. Here the two smaller are 3 and 4, and that's still bigger than 6. So A, in fact, was my wrong answer. So let's move on. It says two sides of a triangle have lengths of 12 and 11. It says the length of the third side must be greater than what and less than what. So here is my third side. My rule is to subtract and add. So if I subtract the two sides I'm given, I'm going to do 12 minus 11, I get 1. And if I add 12 and 11 together, I get 23. So it has to be greater than 1, less than 23. Let's look here. It says, which could be the distance from Casa Grande to, I don't know if it's Platte or Plate, but it's one of them, probably. So saying, what's the value of this third side? Well, the way we figure out the value of the third side, or the range of values, is we add and subtract. So if I subtract these, I get 75. If I add them, I get 575. I need the value that's in between. Well, 75 is not in between, right? X has to be bigger than 75. 575 is not in between. 600 is too big. 490 is the only value that's in between. Okay. Number 35. This is my Hinge theorem. The way the Hinge theorem works, it says if I have two sets of sides that are the same, so this is the same as this, and this is the same as this. If one has a larger included angle, then its third side must be bigger to accommodate the larger angle. So let me actually show you using these things I showed you guys in class. And get them apart. I think you would agree with me that these both have the same two side lengths, the same pieces. I'll zoom out real quick. Oh, I can't while recording. Okay? So, if these have the same two sets of sides, you'll notice that this hinge is more open than this hinge. Because this angle is bigger, it's more open, then this third side has to be longer than this third side to accommodate. You can tell by looking at it, if I put them on top of each other, because it's more open, it's farther away from this. The 98-degree angle is larger than the 90-degree angle, which tells me that this side here has to be bigger than this side here. So AC has to be bigger than RT. Let's try 37. Again, I have two sets of sides that are the same, right? So this thing here is the same as this thing here. This thing here is bigger than, or the same as this thing here. But you'll notice that 18 is bigger than 16. That means this hinge angle has to be bigger than this hinge angle to accommodate for the bigger size. So 90 has to be greater than 4x minus 8. Sorry, I've been meaning to do all the work in blue. So I'm going to add 8 to both sides. Divide by 4. Okay. But remember, we said this one actually has 2 steps, because not only do I have to make sure that this angle's bigger than this one, because this third side was bigger, I also need to make sure that this angle here is larger than 0. I can't have an angle smaller than 0. So here's my second step. So x has to be smaller than this. Ooh, sorry. But bigger than this. So again, the hinge theorem says if I have a bigger third side, the angle has to be bigger to accommodate for the bigger side. So I test that first. But my angle measure has to be positive. So that's my second step. Let's move down here. If I have a mid-segment, okay, a mid-segment is just defined as something or as a segment that connects two midpoints, right? So this is a midpoint because these sides are the same. This is a midpoint because this piece is congruent to this piece is the middle. This is also the middle. So these are all mid-segments. So it says, what are the three pairs of parallel segments in DF? Well, we know a mid-segment is parallel to its base. So MN is a mid-segment. It's got to be parallel to its base, DE. Okay. MO is a mid-segment. It's parallel to its base, FE. ON is a mid-segment. It's parallel to its base, DF. 41. What is the distance across the river? Well, I know this is a midpoint because these are the same. I know this is a midpoint because these are the same, so this is a mid-segment. Okay. And I know my rule is that my mid-segment is half of my base, or we can rewrite that as 2 mid-segments are equal to the base. We just multiply by 2 on both sides. I prefer the one without the fraction. So 2 times the mid-segment, I don't know what the mid-segment is, so I'll call it x, is equal to the base, which is 92, which means my distance across the river is 46. Let's look at 42. Oh no, 42 is not odd. On to the back. These are the perpendicular and angle bisector theorems. I'm actually going to do 43 and 46. So 43, if line KF is the perpendicular bisector of segment GH, find X and the length of segment HK. So the first thing we need to remember is if I have a segment that's the perpendicular bisector, which means it cuts this in half at a 90-degree angle, then anything on this line will be the same distance from one endpoint as it is from the other. If I had a point here, this would be the same distance from here as it is from here. If I had a point all the way out here on it, this would be the same distance from this as it is from this, which means that 40 has to be the same length as 3x plus 7. So I'm going to subtract 7 on both sides. I'm going to divide by 3, and I get x equals 11. But I also want to know what HK is. Well, notice if GK is 40, then the same distance has to be here, so HK also has to be 40. And if I didn't know to do that, I could actually plug my x back in. So 3 times 11 is 33 plus 7 is 40. The rule for angle bisectors is very similar. If I'm on the angle bisector, I know this is an angle bisector because the angle got cut in half. That if I have a point on the angle bisector, it has to be the same distance from this side as it is from this side. That tells me that 6x has to equal 3x plus 12. So I'm going to subtract 3x on both sides. I get x equals 4, but they want the length of OP. And OP is 3x plus 12. That's 12 plus 12. That gives me a length of 24. 47 says if x is on the perpendicular bisector, so this point here is on the perpendicular bisector, so I'm just going to quickly draw what might be the perpendicular bisector, okay? Then which of the following is true? The distance from x to t is bigger than the distance from x to s? No. If it's on the perpendicular bisector, then it's the same distance from t as it is from s, and that's my answer choice B. So those are all of the odds from the review packet. I hope this was helpful if you're having some trouble. Please look at your notes. There's a video on recap notes for the unit. So I hope that's helpful for you guys as well. I hope you crush this big quiz, and I'll see you guys soon.